The popularity of the Fallout show has meant that there's been a whole explosion of Fallout content on the internet. Hi, I am Z, and welcome to Cinematic. Generally, I have a script or bullet points in front of me, but this video will be from my memory from playing Fallout games as a kid and a teenager and now an adult. Since English is not my first language, there will be a lot of gaps in between sentences than normal. And if you don't wanna watch a video like this, I completely understand. And this video is sponsored by our lovely subscribers. It would not be possible without your lovely support, and I'm genuinely very grateful. Let's start with some history. Many people thought that Fallout 2 was going to be the very last in the series. There was a decade between Fallout 2 and 3, and it's because the team that made Fallout 2 and technically Fallout 1 was disbanded when Interplay Entertainment, its parent company, went under. Fallout 3 was nothing like Fallout 2 except for the shared universe. So what about Bethesda's take on the series resonated so hard with so many people, and it also made a lot of old hardcore Fallout fans mad. Maybe that's the reason Fallout 3 became such a big deal, all the positive and negative reactions. Fun fact, I actually played Fallout 2 first and did not know what I was doing or that I was playing a Fallout game. It was years after I played Fallout 3, I went back again and completed Fallout 1 and 2. Fallout 1 and 2 are isometric role-playing games that basically in every way are exactly what came from computers and role-playing games in the 1990s. They are both incredibly good examples of classic role-playing games, and if you love CRPGs, going back to play them is really a worthwhile thing to do. I am not a lore master or anything, but from what I heard, and I don't really know much about corporate stuff, I just love playing video games and only that side of video games. But from what I heard, when it came to making a sequel, the publisher Interplay Entertainment kind of gave up mid-development. Black Isle Studios developed Fallout 1 and 2, and as Interplay Entertainment was going under, Black Isle Studios, its subsidiary, had its feet tied to that weight sinking into the ocean. And after a bidding war, the rights to the Fallout were sold to Bethesda Softworks. By the time this sale went through, it had already been 6 years since the previous Fallout game. We are talking 2004 or I think 2005. Even if the development had remained with the same team, if this amount of time had passed between the games, there's a high likelihood that there would be a lot of change in the series, but it was so much more deeper than that. But a lot of the tone was preserved for Fallout 3. For instance, it deals with the same intense themes: death, mutation, suicide, the existential hell that is the wasteland, and it does it with the same black humor. They did get rid of the self-referential fourth wall breaking stuff, which was very much present in the first two games. They wanted to move to the first person to make Fallout into a world to occupy, a true Bethesda-style role-playing game. That's not to say that the others weren't RPGs, they definitely were. But Fallout 3 always lets you know that you are playing a Bethesda game, and if you are a Bethesda fan, you exactly know what I am talking about. In order to do this, they needed to create a world that was populated with interesting people, and they had real lives going on with real problems, who had things to say, all that signature Bethesda stuff. And although creating a game in 2008 obviously presented some technical limitations that we don't have now, Fallout 3 is really well acted in many parts. Interesting game with tons of different people with interesting different perspectives, showing you so many different aspects of the world. The story was a bit simplistic, and for an open world game, it was pretty linear. But granted, it was a big jump in what Fallout was. To be able to see it in a virtual space, to interact with all of the people, to take in what Fallout 3 is, and I mean everything from the NPCs to the green tint of the sky and air, was something very different at the time. Despite the fact that it was a third Fallout game, nothing else really happened like this, and we certainly never got to see it from the actual character's perspective. And we weren't really asked to immerse ourselves in the previous iterations of the series either. There are some ways that you could call the first two Fallout games borderline satire, not only of the world itself but also of the video games. And yet here we are, in a world that was full of immersion, challenging our notions of what a post-apocalyptic world might be, and also giving us a nice, stylized version of that. It's really weird to see the retro-futuristic existence through the nuclear destruction that happened before Fallout 3. Now let's come to the gameplay mechanics. Well, they have always been up for debate. Comparing it to the later titles really gives us some interesting stuff. The VAT system in 3D sort of brought a turn-based RPG element to a first-person shooter, and it kind of works. Well, at least it did for me at the time. It's fun whether or not it always is the best thing to do is always up for debate. A pretty big risk for what was a highly anticipated game. Imagine that failing. Part of why the combat works so well though, I think, is due to the weapons. Well, nowadays we talk about customizing weapons, crafting pieces, finding things and making hyper-specific stuff, and also the realistic stuff. And in Fallout 3, there's clearly a lot of work that went into the weapons themselves. A large amount of differentiation between all the different weapons is apparent. The weapons all have their uses, and if you use them in the right situations, they will be incredibly helpful, and if you don't, they will be a detriment. Sure, you can play Fallout 3 with your favorite weapon the whole time if you really want to. I spent the whole game with the first plasma rifle I got, but it's a better game if you differentiate because it's designed to be like that. And that's something that it held over from the RPG element that really added a layer of depth when the mechanics were put to the test. The questing in this game was also very immersive. Sure, there's outright just shoot them up actions and wild stuff like the Liberty Prime fight. Imagine this, you were playing Fallout 3 for the last few days and you were in school, right? And you are thinking of playing Fallout 3 when you go back home and you don't know this yet, but you are about to play that Liberty Prime quest and you see Liberty Prime appear. Your mind gets blown at that age. But there's also these weird, morally grey things like Tenpenny Tower, a quest where Coles want to live in a luxurious tower, missions that basically no matter what leave a weird taste in your mouth. And still, with all of the things that you can do in Fallout 3, in a lot of ways the best thing is just being in the world, exploring, seeing, digging into harder to reach places, walking into buildings, not knowing what you will find. The way the developers intended us to play the game is like you really have to put your attention to details to find everything. And the metro stations still give me chills. There is so much to see in Fallout 3, and almost any tech-oriented open-world RPG or shooter owes something to Fallout 3. It set the standard and it's still a great play to this very day. If you are thinking of doing that, get the Broken Steel DLC, it's very essential. It lets you play after you finish the game, which is, pretty standard in games now. And also mods, after you play the vanilla game, and make sure you play the vanilla game first, play the mods, experiment with them, because no Bethesda game is complete without the community creations. Now, is Fallout 3 the best Fallout game? It's up to personal taste, right? I mean, if you ask me, it certainly is. Yes, it's a fairly basic game compared to New Vegas. Even the fourth game certainly had a more deeper story, but so much of that stuff depended on Fallout 3. New Vegas would not have happened without Fallout 3, and so would Fallout 4. Fallout 3 is a landmark title. It's fun, it's deep, and it's interesting. It certainly lives on in its own merits, but you can also see elements of it in so many games since. It's not perfect, but really influential, and it's also great. And that's it. That's all I can share about Fallout 3 from my memory right now. And what is your Fallout 3 memory? Please let me know in the comments. Again, thanks for watching all the videos we make. We love you. See you soon.